Today on how to manipulate people. Let's see how many of these we already know. Oh yeah, gaslighting. So here's the thing about gaslighting. You actually can't do this one because it doesn't exist.
Gaslighting takes place when someone seeks to make another person doubt their own perception of reality, their own memory, and their sanity. The term originates from a 1938 play called Gaslight.
So can I tell you why gaslighting is such a huge issue? Because motherfuckers are stupid. They misremember shit. And when you tell them how it actually went down with proof, they get upset and they say that you're gaslighting. No, I'm not gaslighting. You're just stupid and your memory's bad. And that's why we bring proof. And we don't just baselessly believe people off of memory and memory alone. And that is how it goes.
In which a husband manipulates his wife into believing she is going insane by dimming the gas lights in their home and then denying that the lights are flickering when she points it out. Gaslighting undermines the victim's confidence in their own judgment by deploying confusing lies, withholding information, and shifting the blame onto another person while at the same time denying their side of the story and claiming that what the other person is saying is a lie. Guilt tripping. Guilt tripping is when
so gaslighting's very difficult, once again, because a lot of these things that people get familiar with these terms online, but you got to understand, telling somebody how the event actually happened and showing that with proof isn't gaslighting. It's just setting the record straight. Right? So it's all about, all of these manipulation tactics are all about the intent before you actually implement them.
When a manipulator makes a victim feel bad about themselves, their actions, or lack of action in a particular situation. For example.
Right. So let me also explain the nuance in guilt tripping. So if somebody tells you your actions and that makes you feel guilty, that's not them guilt tripping you. That's them making you aware of your own actions and you feeling ashamed of it, right? So there is a difference. It all depends on the intent.
If a toxic and negative person isn't invited to a friend's party and he finds out about this, he might say to the friend, "I can't believe you didn't invite me to your party. I thought we were closer than that," to instill feelings of guilt and ensure that he will be invited next time. Isolation. Isolation is when a manipulator cuts a victim off from their friends or family, making sure that no support network exists to interfere with the manipulator's plans. A manipulator does this by undermining the relationship the victim has with their loved ones, and slowly turning them against their friends and family by convincing them that the people they know aren't good for their well-being. On top of this, a manipulator creates dependency with their victim by making them feel like they need their support or approval, instilling fear into the victim so that they think they can't survive without them. This tactic is often used by abusive partners, cults, and online predators.
Now, that being said, isolation, because I want, the reason why I'm explaining all of these is because I know when people learn about manipulation tactics, they start to begin to doubt every single person in their life. Isolation. Yes, there are scenarios where there are abusers who cut off good people from your life because they want you to be alone. However, there are also people who help you determine who the bad people are in your life and understand that your life would be better off without these people. Now, the biggest thing for all of these manipulation tactics is never discredit your own thought process and really try to use your own knowledge and not blindly trust someone else. And that's why I always say, just believe in the proof, not the opinions, okay? Because if you can prove that someone fucking sucks, if you can prove that an event actually happened or didn't happen, then this is much easier to avoid that. But the problem is that a lot of other people use the manipulation tactic, which is where they take someone's very fine behavior and make you think that it was abusive or manipulative. For example, if I were to tell you guys, stop talking to your uncle because he hits you and your uncle hits you, that's not me trying to isolate you. That's me trying to get you away from a good person, right? But because these terms are so scary, when people learn about them, they start to second guess everything it is that they're doing, and they actually end up destroying their own life. So you have to be very careful with these terms, guys. You have to be very, 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 very careful.
Love bombing. Love bombing is a deceptive tactic where the manipulator showers their victim with affection, attention, and praise to make them falsely believe that they are loved. Using excessive compliments, gifts, and frequent talks of extravagant future plans together, the manipulator expresses intense emotions to make the victim feel like they are the most important person in their abuser's life. when in reality, the only reason they are receiving such false positivity is so that the abuser can quickly gain as much power and control as possible. On top of this, people who love bomb to manipulate will get the victim heavily attached to the praise, and then take it away at a moment's notice to cause the victim to crave it and be more susceptible to the abuser's requests. Historically speaking, it is said that Adolf Hitler used love bombing techniques on his wife, Eva Braun, to keep her close to him while he pursued his destructive political ambitions.
Right. So love bombing can also be confused with someone just being a really good person. This is another term that's misused drastically, right? So you have to understand there's a difference between actually loving someone a lot and then falsely using love bombing in order to manipulate someone. So once again, it's all about the intent. And the reason why I'm giving so many warnings about this is because once again, when people learn about these terms, they try to line them up and they say, wait a minute, my parents did this to me. They would tell me how much they loved me all the time. They're manipulating me. And it's like, no, your parents just love you. And it's really not that deep. They just care about you, right? So this is why I'm explaining all this.
Playing the victim. This is a commonly used tactic.
Oh, here's one that's misused fucking constantly. This is great.
That even non-abusive or non-manipulative people can accidentally use to avoid taking responsibility for something. It is where a manipulator acts like they are the ones being wronged or hurt, when in reality they are the guilty ones. By blaming other people for their actions and seeking sympathy through the exaggeration of their problems, all while avoiding taking any responsibility and admitting to their wrongdoing. Playing the victim can be a very effective strategy because it requires the other person to attack the manipulator and tell them that they are completely wrong in order to attempt to regain control of the narrative, something that most people don't want to do.
Right. So playing the victim, or say that you're being a victim, is told to a lot of people who are quite literally just victims, right? Somebody who's actually been wronged gets told they're being a victim when in reality, they quite literally are just a victim, right? So it's very important to know, are they saying they've been wronged in order to manipulate people, or are they quite literally just stating the facts and how they happened, and they're expressing why they are a victim, right? Yeah, this one definitely sucks a lot when you're in school, because then you get bullied and then you cry and then they say, oh, you're just being a victim. That's because I just got hit in the fucking face, right? So these are why these are so good as manipulation tactics, because they blend so well into the way that we as modern society act.
Threats or coercion. Threats come in many different forms. Firstly, the obvious physical threat of violence or damage to someone's property if the victim doesn't do exactly what the manipulator wants. Then there's emotional threats, such as threatening to leave someone in a relationship over a small or petty feud, or threatening to spread rumors about someone that could damage their reputation. Financial threats are when someone withholds financial support or threatens their monetary stability, which hackers love to use against companies when they successfully pull off a data breach. In fact, this happened recently to Colonial Pipeline, a major fuel pipeline operator in the United States, who was targeted by a ransomware attack in which hackers demanded a payment of $4.4 million in Bitcoin in exchange for the decryption key. Financial threats can also quickly turn into legal threats, with one party threatening to sue another. And finally, there are social threats, in which a manipulator threatens to damage the victim's reputation with lies, smear campaigns, and slander, which we will talk about in more detail later in this video.
Yeah, this one's like always bad. There's pretty much no nuance to that. That one's just like all fucking bad. That one has happened to me many fucking times. There was actually a person in my life who, well, I can't really go into it too much, but this person just said, yeah, if you don't do this, I'm going to just lie about you online. And I said, oh, okay. And then I got fucked really bad. Yep. They said, if I don't do this, then I'm just going to say this shit online about you. And I said, huh. And at that point, I realized how fragile my career was, knowing that one person could quite simply just lie and it would fuck me over. Shit was fucked.
Silent treatment. The silent treatment is a form of manipulation that typically takes place in relationships, but can also take place in the workplace, among friends, and online. It's the practice of withholding information or communication with an individual as a form of punishment. A manipulator may withhold eye contact, or ignore their victim's presence and existence entirely, even when in the same room as them, as a controlling tactic. It is very similar to ghosting.
Yeah, so silent treatment is also very similar to, I don't want to talk to you. This isn't a manipulation tactic. I just legit just don't fuck with you like that, right? So that's kind of another thing.
Ghosting is a very similar treatment to the silent treatment, as both tactics involve a lack of communication between the manipulator and the victim. However, the main difference is that while the silent treatment is used for punishment and control, ghosting is seen as a passive and disrespectful way to end a relationship or friendship permanently. While ghosting is not always used as an intended form of manipulation, it does lead to a lack of closure, causing the victim to feel rejected, abandoned, and confused. Shaming.
Yeah, if your idea to break up with someone is to just never talk to them ever again, that is so fucked. Now, the difference is that for ghosting, this is like a week by week thing. Some people are like, oh, they didn't talk to me all day. Okay. Well, maybe that got busy, right? Maybe they got busy. But yeah, when you cancel your communication in perpetuity, yeah, it's fucked up.
Shaming, like threats, comes in many different forms. Firstly, there is public humiliation, where a manipulator makes negative comments about a victim in front of other people or online in order to embarrass them. A manipulator may compare the victim unfavorably to other people, make them feel inadequate and inferior, blame them for their own actions, mock them to make them feel foolish and ridiculous, or openly exclude them from social activities and events.
Yeah, but also shaming can also, first of all, waha. Second of all, but also, there's also banter. And a lot of people are aggressive pussies and they'll get upset over nothing, right? So when you attempt to banter with somebody and they don't banter back, that doesn't make you a bad person. It just makes them, a little bit uncomfortable. To learn from that for the next time. But yeah, usually shaming is always bad.
Triangulation. This is a tactic in which the manipulator brings in a third party to create jealousy or competition within the victim, creating a feeling that they need to compete for the manipulator's attention. The manipulator may use the third party to make the victim feel jealous by flirting with the third party and spending more time with them, intentionally excluding the victim from their activity.
This is a really interesting one to talk about.
The manipulator feeds the idea of competition in the victim's mind, sometimes by even spreading rumors about the victim to the third party to turn them against each other and create even more conflict. All of this puts the victim in a state of mind where they are much easier to be controlled by the manipulator or even by the third party.
So here's the other thing. So this one is very much a real thing when it's done, once again, intentionally. However, a lot of people who are codependent and overly jealous people will assume that triangulation is occurring when in reality, just because, and Ninja made a post talking about this shit today. Some women and some men will think, oh, my girlfriend is talking to another guy. They're doing that to make me jealous. Oh, my boyfriend is talking to another girl. They're doing this to make me jealous. When in reality, no, sometimes dudes just talk to other girls as friends. However, that's really rare in 2024, and that can no longer happen. So I will be real. With how fucking jealous and over paranoid everybody is in 2024, the moment you get in a relationship, just cut everybody else off. Just cut everybody else off because you don't want to deal with that fucking headache. So find somebody you love, get rid of everybody else and just stay with them forever because otherwise you're going to deal with bitching and moaning for fucking ever. Holy shit. I'd rather not be in a relationship. True. But yeah, insecurity is running fucking rampant in 2024.
Aggressive jokes. Jokes can often hold much deeper meanings and intentions, being used to manipulate a victim in several different ways. Writer Shahida Arabi discusses this in their article, Thought Catalog, writing that, quote, covert narcissists enjoy making malicious remarks at your expense. These are usually dressed up as just jokes, so that they can get away with saying appalling things while still maintaining an innocent, cool demeanor. Yet anytime you are outraged at an insensitive, harsh remark, you are accused of having no sense of humor. These jokes go far past the line, taking insults, sarcasm, gaslighting, and exclusionary jokes to a wildly different level. Then, there are jokes that take place at social events that are designed to isolate the person on the receiving end of them, turning them into the perceived fool and causing everyone around them to become an aggressor.
So,
shifting the
here's the
goalposts.
thing with aggressive jokes. Sometimes they are just aggressive jokes, or sometimes they are just jokes and people are pussies. And that's pretty much it. There are a lot of times where jokes are quite simply just jokes. But even listening to this, I'm sure tons of people came to your mind, including myself during this, because I'm an aggressive guy and I make jokes. But the other thing is, sometimes jokes are just jokes. Like case in point, Mint Picker. You can't tell me that Mint Picker isn't funny. Like, I don't care what you say. But that one was definitely meant to feel somebody feel like shit. Abso-fucking-lutely, bro. And that shit is insane. That's not a joke. That ruined his life. So cap. So cap. So cap. So cap. Now, for example, like another term of like an aggressive joke could have been seen as like me saying that Hex was being emotional. Right? Some people could say, oh, you called a woman emotional. That was fucked up. But it's also like, nah, that's just what was happening. Right? Is what it is. That being said, I will never talk to another woman again on stream in a debate fashion. And you know what's crazy? I told Hex Juice that. I said quite literally, Hex, I am never having you on my stream again unless it is for something happy. We are never talking seriously whatsoever ever again. And she is so pissed. Because the internet wanted to make it fucking weird. Well, congratulations, guys. Me and Hex will never be talking seriously on the internet whatsoever. And then she said, oh, that makes me really sad. And I said, I don't care. Yep, I do not care. Because if the internet is going to be that fucking retarded, I will talk to anybody else. And you know what's crazy? That itself is what's sexist, is assuming that a woman can't handle her own shit because she's in a because she's in a debate with a man. Rather than, you know what's not sexist? Telling someone who's emotional they're being emotional versus saying, oh my God, big bad man bully woman, she's too weak to defend herself, I'll save her. That's what's sexist. But congratulations. Me and her will never debate on stream ever again.
Perceived full and causing everyone around them to become an aggressor. Emotional blackmail. Emotional blackmail is when the manipulator uses threats, guilt, or other forms of emotional manipulation to control and manipulate the victim. Withholding affection is a common tactic, where the manipulator ceases affection and support to the victim until they comply with their demands. The manipulator may also make promises or commitments to the victims, only to break them later. Projection.
Yeah, emotional blackmail is really fucking scary, especially when you're at the tail end of a relationship and you're desperately trying to get out of that relationship, but this person keeps on promising you things that you've always wanted to do with them, but then you realize, or maybe you don't realize, that the person you fell in love with isn't actually that person. They're merely an image of what you thought they were because you were forcing your headcanon on what they could have been, but in reality, they never were that person. And then they promise you this and they promise you that, and you know they'll never do it, and it's heartbreaking. Emotional blackmail is incredibly fucked up, and yeah, I don't think there's really any justification for that. However, I guess there are times where you are breaking up with someone and they actually do promise to change, and they will, which could make you get confused with it just being emotional blackmail or legitimate, and it can just cause a lot of issues. And that's kind of the whole point of this video is it intentional or is it not intentional? And it's difficult, man. It's very difficult.
It's the act of attributing your own thoughts and feelings onto someone else, making them think they are guilty of what you feel or have done. This is also known as victim blaming. Manipulators often blame their victims for doing things they are guilty of, while at the same time failing to realize the correlation between their accusations against other people versus their own actions. Deflection is another tactic that manipulators use, and it's very similar to projection. However, usually in deflection, the manipulator is fully aware of their own hypocrisy and is deflecting it to someone else to avoid facing responsibility. Whereas in projection, the manipulator lacks self-awareness and is subconsciously shifting the blame.
So the very difficult thing with low IQ conversations with retards on the internet is they're going to tell you stuff, because deflecting is a very real thing. Absolutely. You'll see that in a lot of debates versus like Morgan Piers and Destiny. Absolutely. But the problem is for retards on the internet who try to talk smart and communicate with one another, someone will tell you one thing and then you'll say no, and then they'll say you're deflecting. Like, for example, I'm going to give you an example. Okay, chat, you're going to say, no, I'm not. Okay? Chat, you're all pedophile. You all fuck kids. You all fuck kids. You're deflecting. You see, you're deflecting right now. Like, dude, like, I'm trying to talk to you. I'm trying to help you and you're deflecting. You see what I mean? So it's a very like, it is, oh my God, being accused of deflecting when you're talking to someone who's just fucking dumb. Oh my, it is the most irritating shit on the fucking earth. Tech went the most extreme. Yeah, I feel like examples are a lot more easy to understand when you use extremes, right? But what I'm saying is if you don't listen to something that somebody says to you, it doesn't mean every time that you're deflecting. They could also just be wrong. In any scenario, you should never be required to take what someone else says about you as if it's word from God, right? So that's why I'm saying you have to use your own IQ. Does that make sense? Because you could just be talking to a stupid person, right? So how many times has anybody said something wrong? Well, now people can say things that are wrong about you. People can form misguided opinions all the fucking time. Just because you don't listen to somebody doesn't mean that you're deflecting. It could also mean that they're just fucking wrong. All right, anyways.
Smear campaigns. The awareness of smear campaigns.
What is shifting the goalpost? Genuine question. Okay, so for example, I'll give you an example of shifting the goalpost. This happened to me when I was a kid. So my dad said if I were to get the honor roll in school, then I would be allowed to play video games. So I got the honor roll. And then once I got the honor roll, then he said, oh, no, I meant the president's honor roll, which means now all A's and B's aren't good. Now it has to be all A's. So it's essentially giving you a goal to hit. And then once you hit that goal, you make another goal or you extend how specific this goal is, right? So it would be like, oh, yo, Chad, if we get 8,000 subs, we'll do a subathon. Or we hit 8K. 8K, 9K is what it is, right? So it's like giving someone a false goal that they'll never really get to, if that makes sense. But yes, that way they never actually reach that goal. That way they can never get that desired outcome.
Has become a heavily discussed topic in recent years. Unlike many of the other manipulation tactics we've discussed in this video so far, smear campaigns aren't usually deployed by one singular person against another. Instead, politicians and celebrities frequently accuse the media and the general public of tarnishing their name and image for money and attention by participating in smear campaigns against them. Smear campaigns involve the use of spreading rumors and gossip
This is a really
about the
interesting
victim
one.
to make them appear untrustworthy and unreliable, often by intentionally misrepresenting their words and twisting their intended meanings to fit a specific agenda. Character assassination is a big part of a smear campaign.
We're going to see comparisons very soon.
If the victim seems immoral or unethical, any attack used against them can be easily justified. Michael Jackson is one celebrity who frequently called out the media for making him appear like a pedophile, causing many people to brutally attack him. In their minds, he was a pedophile, so any tactic used against him was fair and righteous. Donald Trump is another celebrity and politician who spent his 2016 US presidential campaign almost exclusively calling out the media and their attacks against him. Support for both of these individuals remains heavily divided, but regardless of what you personally think about either of them, their wars against the press are two alleged examples of smear campaigns against one person, shifting the goalpost.
Yeah, so a smear campaign can also be described, a perceived smear campaign can also be what can be described as what's happening to EO, right? So somebody can see EO's post and see how many content creators are making videos on his video and kind of clowning on him a little bit. Well, that's not a smear campaign. That's just EO made a stupid video and people wanted content. You know what I'm saying? Right? So it's understanding that a smear campaign is when it's done intentionally for malicious means. Right? Or it's like kind of when people were to make videos on enviosity being a mint picker, right? And doing, I should be the only motherfucker getting praised, right? That's not a smear campaign because it's not done with the intent to misinform. It's quite literally just shitting on the action that he himself actually did. Hope that makes sense.
Shifting the goalposts is a common tactic used in arguments where the manipulator changes the criteria or standards for success and achievement in order to avoid admitting that they were wrong and taking responsibility for something. For example, let's say in a job, a boss promises their employee a raise if they accomplish a specific task quickly. But then when that employee successfully finishes that task on time, the boss then decides that they need to do 3 more tasks to receive the previously promised pay increase. Or let's say a parent promises their child a reward if they clean the house, but then denies giving the reward because the kid didn't also get high enough grades in class, something that wasn't previously discussed. Changing the
That shit is frustrating as shit because for a lot of goal-oriented individuals, which a lot of people are, they're like, okay, I just need to hit this goal and I'm good to go. They'll focus, they'll give their everything, and the moment they get there, it gets stripped away. It's so incredibly fucking frustrating.
The subject. Manipulators love this quick tactic a lot because the victim can very easily fall for it unless they are quick enough to call it out and keep the conversation focused. Obviously, there are varying degrees of severity with this tactic, as well as a lot of the other tactics we've discussed in this video. However, it's one of many small tricks that if noticed can lead to a victim questioning if there are deeper levels of manipulation going on at the same time. Playing on insecurity.
If you want to see this example of changing the subject, you should watch my discussion with this streamer called Soul of an Artist. I would disprove him wrong on every single point, and he would change the subject immediately. And you know what was crazy? I was well aware that he was doing this the entire time, and I'm well aware when anybody does this. But because I know how right I was in my stance, I knew that there wasn't anything that he could bullshit or make up that I couldn't quite quickly dismantle. And then knowers would know, and people who don't know. And yeah, that shit happened quite a fucking lot. Yeah, I mean, just keep swapping it, man. English, math, science, social studies, I don't care. I will have an answer for fucking everything.
Playing on insecurities. Manipulators love to exploit.
But yeah, a lot of content creators who come at me will do this, right? And then I will quickly disprove them, and then they'll be like, oh, well, I'm going to change the subject. Yeah, I don't really change the subject too much. I'm like, oh, okay, shit, my bad. Right, but the problem is that a lot of content creators, and this is the big issue. This is the reason why I will always be okay, and this is why so many other people won't be okay. A lot of content creators are incensed on being 100% right. They have to be 100% right. I never worry about being 100% right. The only thing I worry about is being justified in my cause and in my stance, right? So I might make mistakes, but I can at least let you know why I did that and how we got there, rather than say, no, what I did was right. It was right. No, you're wrong, right? I can at least tell you why I got to that stance, which can, by the way, freak people the fuck out. It will make people so frustrated because people will only be able to say, I was right or I was wrong. Barely any people go for justification, right? That's the thing. So that's what frustrates people like crazy. And also, as a content creator, I can understand people's fear because the middle ground fallacy is also incredibly frustrating to deal with. So the middle ground fallacy is when one person, let's say for example, one person stabs someone's grandmother and the other person drank their green tea Arizona. And then a bystander will say, well, you both fucked up, so you're both in the wrong. When in reality, any normal human being would say, yo, what the fuck? You just killed his grandma. Because the thing that the other person did was so minor, shout out to Drake, so minor in comparison to what the other person did. I understand that two wrongs don't make a right. However, there are certain scales of how wrong things are that people can do. So that's why a lot of people, for example, me, I'm quite the victim of this, where someone will come after me and attempt to discredit me and go after my personal life. And so I will defend myself. And then people say, well, you both started it. You're both in the wrong. Well, no, because one was coming out of malicious intent and an aggravated nature, where the other one was merely made in self-defense. And that's a huge fucking difference. That's why I always say, you know, how many times can you honestly remember me going at somebody first? It's much, much, much lower than the amount of people who come at me on a day-to-day basis. And you know that's the truth. I mean, there are legitimately channels who have made over 200 videos on me in 1 month. And I don't respond to them. I don't say anything. There are people who make 10, 20 videos on me every single week. I don't say anything. I'm good. So this whole idea that I have to go at anybody who goes at me is also just not true. I will only do it when it's fucking important. I will only do it when it's fucking important, right? And because the thing is, and we've seen this with not 10s, not 20s, hundreds of channels over my 6-year career. These people, they lose their fucking mind. They become delusional as shit. They make video after video after video on me. And for the beginning, people are kind of like, oh yeah, he's got a point. And then these people realize these guys are delusional and they're out of their fucking minds. And once they realize it, they go away. Because then they turn their own communities against them when they realize, oh, the only thing these creators can do is shit talk Tectone. I want you to genuinely think how many creators you know that only have traction, especially on Twitter, especially on YouTube, just because they said Tectone bad. There was so fucking many Tectone bad channels. And where are they all now? Where are they all now? They are all fucking gone. Because this cycle has happened over and over and over and over again. And they always think they're on to something to expose this evil mastermind. And then they're gone. So all I have to do is just sit here and wait. How many more are you going to do, man? 100? 200? You know, it's crazy. It's not even just men. Women, too. AI voices, old people, young people, dumb people, gay people. There's been so many, and I don't even have to say their fucking names. And what's crazy is, here's the best part. Here's the best part. The person hearing this, because I know they all watch my content. The person hearing this thinks I'm only talking about them. But there is so many more people than you that have all tried this. And they all think he must be talking about specifically me. No, man, I'm sorry. This shit is not new. It's been happening for months and years. Insane.
Exploit their victims' fears and anxieties by making them feel insecure and uncertain about themselves. As long as their confidence is undermined, they will more than likely fall prey to their manipulator. L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology, was a well-known historical user of playing into people's insecurities to get them to join his cult. He would target people who were lost and susceptible to his mental paintings of personal transformation and enlightenment, all while exploiting their fears of the unknown world, as well as their fears of getting rejected by their friends and family, arguing that in Scientology they would be accepted by the world. This made it very easy for him to get tens of thousands of people to submit to his teachings.
So playing on insecurities can also be confused with just saying real shit. Like, so for example, I was in a relationship before, not just a dating one, like friendships as well, where someone will be like, do I look good in this dress? And I'll just say, no, you look fat. Right? But I'm not saying that to play on their insecurities. I'm letting them know that they actually just look bad in the dress and they should change it, because I'm not going to let these people go out and look like fucking idiots. Right? So I think this one's also really bad for people who are just blunt and straightforward. And yeah, and I could probably say a prettier thing like, oh my God, you look great, but maybe we try this. But what's that going to do? Because people always tell me that. What's that going to do? That means when I'm not around, they're going to wear that outfit that they look fucking stupid in, because I didn't let them know that they look stupid. So when somebody says, do I look bad? Yes. But you are deciding for them. No, I'm not. They are asking for my opinion, and then I am giving them that. So that's the big fucking difference. Women need men like you who don't let us go out looking dumb as fuck. Hey, if you're a woman, can you DM me on Twitter? Thanks. That'd be awesome. Now the important thing is if you hurt because this is what I do. This is the big difference. When I do hurt someone's feelings that I care about by being blunt or being too straightforward, I will always apologize. I am so sorry. I was just keeping it in a buck. I am so sorry. Do you want to hit me? You can hit me if you like. I am so sorry. And that usually gets a chuckle, and then it usually gets let go. But yeah. Do you feel remorse if you hurt someone's feelings? Absolutely. I mean, if I care about them. Now, if I hurt some random dumb fuck's feelings on the internet, no, I don't give a fuck at all, especially if they're fucking crazy. But no, the thing with people who always confuse me for not being empathetic is that I have no sympathy for anybody who I determine to be a destructive person. I don't care at all. I'm obviously not going to have sympathy for every single human being on the internet, especially if they're a bad person. Like, what, do you think I'm going to have sympathy for fucking Chris Tyson? I even knew that fucking person. No, I don't give a fuck at all. What they did was fucked up. And if me not showing sympathy means that I'm not a quote-unquote empath, you're just retarded. When bad people do bad things, I don't feel bad for them. That makes sense?
fake moralization. This tactic involves a manipulator pretending to have high moral standards and values in order to gain power and control of others. On paper, nobody likes an authoritative or aggressive person leading them, so of course, manipulators mask their true intentions and behavior through various methods, such as through virtue signaling by publicly supporting a cause or charity in order to gain praise.
Yeah, the amount of people fake supporting Free Palestine on Twitter just appear as a good person is fucking insane. And here's my opinion. How about we just do the things and we support the things that we believe in rather than doing these things for good boy points and clout? Because it's fucking cringe. It's the same thing with corporations when they preach, oh, we love gay people, we love trans people. Like, these corporations, they don't fucking care. They're just doing it to fucking farm more sales on specific days. It's bullshit. It's inauthentic. And I fucking hate this shit.
Of course, manipulators that sit on the moral high ground engage in hypocritical behavior all the time. But unfortunately, it's up to the victim to pay attention and call it out, which is very difficult to do in most situations, making this not an easy tactic to counter. Infantilization. Whether it's through a patronizing tone to make the victim feel belittled and disrespected, or intense micromanagement of every aspect of their victims' lives, manipulators treating their victims like children or infants is done mainly for one reason: power and control. Being treated poorly by someone else can cause a person to be incredibly demoralized, making it difficult for them to muster the willpower to stand up to their abuser.
This doesn't mean if someone baby talks you, they're attempting to do infantilization. This was a great video. I want anybody who watched this to really process this on their own time and figure out what it means for them. But don't just, when you learn about these things, you're going to want to project them on everything now that you experience. But just realize these are rare things that happen in very abusive relationships. Not everybody is trying to manipulate you. So learn from these things, but don't become over paranoid to them and apply them to help your day-to-day life. Hopefully that makes sense. I understand there will be some degree of bandwagoning, but it gets problematic if you say everyone is just virtue signaling when there are people that actually really do care. Oh, absolutely. You got to understand that there's a lot of people who are fake supporters, right? And yeah, it's just, it depends on the intent of which they're doing it. Like, I don't know about you guys, but if there was a cause that I greatly appreciate and support, and someone were just to jump on because they wanted to look good, that would also piss me the fuck off. I think you're underplaying how many people employ manipulation tactics without being actual manipulators. Oh no, I agree with that as well. I agree with that as well. But the other thing is, for me, it's all about the intent behind the cause of what they did, right? And so I will obviously let bygones be bygones if somebody accidentally changes the subject due to ADD. Not everything has to be fucking scrutinized and observed. But yeah, I do agree. A lot of people do these things accidentally, and not everything is premeditated. But yeah, great video.